Day 2 of making the tutorial. Let's start again, I wasn't paying attention. So yes, what's fine, should be, anyway, maybe. Is that fixed? Right, so we changed some stuff, so that should work better now. Okay, let's pretend that works for now. Did I save it? Okay, so yesterday, I think I left off with some bugs. Let's see. Tutorial. You can select a card to play even though it's illegal. I should play the Psycho, but I can probably play the school bus. Yeah, which is wrong. So I think that's in the carousel, because that's where we were passing in what was valid and invalid. Here. So I guess when I'm updating, I'm not actually checking whether it's a legal card. So I guess there's nothing there to say check whether this card is legal, which, because I copied that pretty much straight from the start game player state, which is right at the beginning of the game. You place a dead, but you can only place a dead. And I'm pretty sure, if I just give it a quick test, that when we do that, it'll only let me play the deads. Why is it not the same? What have I done differently? So here, it's the exact same. Those are invalid, but I can't play that card. I couldn't play the dead. So why is that? That's the selection method, and here I'm checking that's a dead count. So I can't do anything as easy as that. I don't think. Actually, no, I probably can. Because the card list, if they're inserted at the very beginning, the valid cards are inserted at the very beginning of the card list. Then when I check the carousel index, if it's below the card list count, then it's valid. That sounds worth a try. So, Psycho, I can play. Can I play the school bus? Yes, I still can. Okay, in that case, for safety's sake, I'm not going to do that. I will check here to make sure, do a little for loop, and I will check that if card list is a card cache, isn't it? Yeah. So if I check that, wait, no, I add everything to the card list, don't I? I think I'm getting myself all mixed up. Yeah, everything gets added to the card list. So I want to make sure that it's not invalid. Or I can just check actually that it's the same as this. Yeah, that's probably easier than doing a silly for loop. So if it's a valid card that's been selected, and that card that has been selected is the same type as the card that we're actually after, so we have to play the Psycho, but we'll do the school bus for the sake of consistency. Yep, I can't play anything but the Psycho. Okay, good. So I'm going to mark that off. Okay, so at the end of the game, we are forcing the player's base to get overrun to demonstrate the fact that these things happen. So, but when it got to the end of all the tutorial states, it never actually played anything. So that is probably something to do. Let's have a look. Game controller tutorial. Maybe something at finished turn, because this is where I check once the turn's finished what's happening. So maybe it's doing something there that it shouldn't. Now I play forward planning inside. Okay, because this is the round that I die on. Let's attach my breakpoints. Okay, here we go. Finish turn. Check game end. There's probably something in here. It won't be the final turn yet. Is it the solitaire? Okay, so this is probably somewhere along the lines where I'm going to be checking as well. And it's... oh, that's technically set up as well. It's not right. But otherwise it goes into end game, which I have not got. Haven't got an error in there to warn me, which is probably why it looked like it wasn't doing anything. I'm just going to pinch it from here, because I do have a state here, just to make sure that doesn't happen again in the future. So end game, but also I did want to check that. Basically, I just want to be checking if the base is overrun. So I don't need to edit all of that. So there's a lot of stuff in there I don't need. Although I might need all that. And we don't care about completed sets, so I'll just put a tutorial check in here and copy and paste that. Because we also don't care about that. So I can't remember if I need to do the final round check. Actually, I don't think I do. So I literally just need to check this. So there's no point using this function because it's just confusing. So we can just say here, check if the base is overrun. Otherwise, we just go on to the next round. I don't really care about the next rounds, not the next round stuff, all of this, because we know there's only going to be one player in the tutorial, so I'll just say just else. Get rid of all of that. Because we don't care about round incrementation. It'll happen, but there's only one player, so we don't need to just go on to the next player's turn rather than saying it's the end of the round. Okay. And then it was the end game thing. That was what was causing the problem, because that was missing. So I need to get this. We probably don't want it to be end game or solitaire. I'll just let us the solitaire one for now, because then I'll probably make a custom tutorial end game screen. Let's just give that a test. Okay, you breach, all the players move inside, all the dead move inside, everything gets killed, base is overrun. And then it breaks because, why does that break? Start display end screen. It's probably something to do with me just hijacking the solitaire screen. Let's just create a quick placeholder tutorial endgame screen so that I know that that's working correctly. It's a good looking endgame screen. Okay, so then once we've done that, there's also an endgame control that's nothing to do with the UI that triggers the UI. So I'll have to create one of those as well for, so see here where we use the solitaire. So I'll want a version of this. So yeah, I'll just copy and paste again, but we're going to be changing it into a tutorial version, which doesn't care about stats. So I'll just get rid of that. We are going to start the fail screen regardless of whether we win or lost, because we really don't care about that. And then once that's finished, the event only currently requires a single callback, which is for the continue button. So here, when we trigger that event, we only want to pass in that callback, which is for continue. We don't care about that. And then I believe on continue just takes you back to the main menu. Yep. So then let's update this. So instead of solitaire, it goes to the tutorial endgame screen. And then hopefully everything works fine there. Okay, let's try and get to the end again. See if it all works. And the right UI is displayed. And then everything dies. The base is overrun. Maybe breakpoint trigger on endgame. Oh, I didn't fill it in. That's a null reference. The base is overrun. Hey, there we go. Continue. And we go back to the main menu. Cool, okay. So the next thing I want to put in is the dialog boxes, because we are going to have, let's find it, some text going on. So the player knows what they're doing and we're not just forcing them to do things without any explanation. That would be cruel. So we'll want to create a script. It's the same as how we did with the end game that has a event. It listens for an event and then it updates it depending on what we want it to say. Okay, so the dialogue, we want it to be, we're using Text Mesh Pro. Ooh. So that's Text Mesh GUI. Yeah. So let's just hook that up there. Like so. So let's set up a, tell you what, if I inherit from game UI base, this means that there will be a panel which automatically, like it's the base, it's the root, and then that has a display function that I can turn off and on. So I can turn that off on awake, unless it does that already. It does do that already, so I don't need to do that. So I'll call it on update dialogue. Oh, I tend to like using the same event for on and off and then just sending an extra value. The problem with the way I've set up my event manager is you can't have multiple events for the same, you can't have multiple callbacks or delegates for the same event with the same number of arguments. So I couldn't create a dialogue event, pass it a string to update the text, and then also send it a message with a bool for false to turn it off. I guess I can just create a bool display string text. So my event system is really, really useful. Sometimes like this, which I understand because of the way how it works. It has some restrictions, but I don't want to have so many events created. So, you know, I've already got a lot of events. I'll display dialogue. But that's how I do it on other things. So for the time being, until I think of another solution to it, which I don't think there is, I don't know. So if display is true, Then we want to display UI true. That's, like I said, because of the base, it literally just turns the object on or off depending on what you pass it. And then the text, we want to update to whatever text is. Otherwise, display UI is false. Okay, let's add the listener to it. So that's game event manager. Add listener. We want to pass in a bool and a string, and it's going to be of the type display dialog. And then the function that I wanted to call is update dialog. And then disable, we remove the listener so we don't have anything kicking about in memory, causing mischief. Okay, so I believe that is this dialog box all hooked up. It will have audio, but I'll come back to that once I've got this working. Okay, this I believe is where I want to be adding. So you know where in Play Controller Tutorial I have these tutorial actions. For each action, I believe it is going to be having a dialogue to go prior to it. So tutorial data, I'm going to want to add a dialogue option. Not a dialogue option, a string for the dialogue. I hope I'm spelling dialogue right. Yes, I am. And then I believe for each of these we will want to have some dialogue passed in. I'll put it on the end because it'll be quite long. I mean, a better way to do this would actually have the CSV. Because if I use a CSV, then I can hook up the identity, the ID of the CSV with the audio file. Or I can just have a serialized field. That sounds better, actually, just having a serialized field and mess around with CSVs. I think for the tutorial, because it's like a hard code or just a little thing, it doesn't need that much effort put into it. This might be a good place to put the tutorial stuff in the inspector, which wants to go somewhere in here, I guess. I might create a prefab for it that I store in the prefab storage and I use as a reference. I don't need to instantiate it, but I can use it as a reference. Or I can add it to the variable manager. Yeah, I'll add it to the variable manager because it's a data thing. Duplicate that because I want a tutorial version. It's basically this. I probably don't need to be, well, I can't, if it's a dictionary, I can't actually access it. So I guess if I just make it an array. I like it being a dictionary because I like having the keys as the constant values. You know, you can't have the duplicates. But I guess if I'm making this inside the inspector, then that'll be fine. Why doesn't it like... Ah, because I've got a random int kicking about. So, it should serialize nicely. It doesn't, because I probably haven't serialized this class. Yeah. So I won't need the constructors or anything. But they were good to get it working. But then this means if you want to change anything, everyone has access to it in the inspector rather than having to dive through my code. That is still not working though. Do I need to serialize the actual class as well? Why aren't you showing up? Where are you? Yeah, actually I've probably really severely messed up. It doesn't need to be a list. I mean, it can be a list, but it can be an array. Okay, so yeah, tutorial action, you can see that by itself. Oh, I was thinking why, but that's a property drawer that I've created, so that's why that looks like that. Okay, so let's make an array, and it'll want to be an array of an array. Oh, I'm not sure that serializes in Unity. I don't know if I've tried it actually. Yeah, it disappears. It doesn't like that. Okay. So, what I'm going to have to do is tutorial data. I put that into another class. So if I call this tutorial action, it doesn't want any of this, but it has in there a private. Should we make it an array? I remove it though, so I will make it a list of tutorial. Oh, I've done this the wrong way around. That I want to be tutorial data. That I want to be tutorial action, because that's the singular action, whereas this is the data, which is going to hold all the tutorials. We'll call that action list. So all of this is going to be severely messed up, but I'm working on this at the minute, so that should be okay. I'll just rename that data list. Oh, of course that's not going to compile. So all of that is going to be mucked up. It's probably going to cause more errors though, because I use that all over the place. Let's have a return type. Oh. So I've got my constructors messed up. Those won't be used anyway, but I'll keep them around for the time being. Oh, what else have we got going on? Yeah. I better go fix all of this first. Oh. So instead of all of this, so I don't want tutorial actions there, this is where here we will return a tutorial action, a singular one, get action, we will pass it the round, current round index, and we want it to get the first one. Oh, actually I haven't put that in, have I? We'll just straight up return, we'll make a getter out of it. We'll just straight up return the list rather than mess around with it. Although I could. Oh, it doesn't matter. Get action list, we'll get the first of it, and then I will do a remove. Action, which will remove the first one. Hopefully that's all I need. So then when I use it in here, where do I use this? It places. So the variable manager, I want to copy that and return a reference and get a reference to the tutorial script that's on the same game object. So because this is a singleton, I can just do variable manager instance.tutorial get whatever I want. Easy. So it'll look like variable manager tutorial get action passing the current round count. So that goes there. Same thing. Okay, but when I remove it, I will get action, remove action, and that'll remove, pop that off essentially. Same thing, remove. Okay, that should be everything. So that should get rid of a lot of errors. Okay, not all of them, but some of them. Oh, I'm returning. Don't need to return to instance avoid. Okay, 2 errors. Oh, remove at. Not just remove, because the remove is actually looking for the type. There we go. Yeah, so now this, oh, this is never used, so I can just delete that. So now, when I go back to these inspectors, everything's working lovely now, and I should be able to add stuff in here. Okay, so the first action list, there's going to be 3 in there. The first action is going to be play a card. It is going to be a survivor, and it's going to be the psycho, and she is going to be played to the insight slot. Okay, I'll do this first. I'll fill all this in, and then I will enter the dialogue and just make sure that this system does actually work. I am 90% sure it will. Okay, so then after the psycho, oh, I just thought that force thing isn't there. Oh, because it's nullable. So if I make that not nullable, oh, I made it nullable because of the struct. Oh yeah, now it's gonna. Because now it's a struct, I can't compare it to null. Maybe I make it a list and then remove it, because before I was making it null. Yep, I'll just do that. Okay, so can I see that in the inspector now? Is there any errors? And yep, there we go. Okay, so this wants to be, so the psycho, she picks up a stop card, lucky escape. Right. The next action, we take a card from the city deck. Don't care about this card data, do we? No, we do, because it's going to be a survivor, the scavenger. But we don't care about the position because it's coming from the city deck, so we can just ignore that. And we don't need the action card data because that's for the action. Okay, the next, so the last action in that round is we play the hero outside. And he gets these, not the structures anymore, it's the wise man. Okay, that is all the data done. Let's play that now then and see. I could always as well create a cool editor to view all this data, because that was a little bit of a hassle to add all that in, but I don't really need to. So I just like making editors to make it nice to view data. So does it still play the same? So far so good. We get the scavenger, play the hero outside and kill the wrong card. It was the wise man though, but now the hero dies. That's next on my list, or rather it's on my list somewhere. Okay, but from that we can safely assume that the rest of the data works correctly. So I'm not going to test the rest of it as soon as I made that mistake. Okay, let's start adding the dialogue and audio stuff. I'm actually just going to add in here the audio source, because I should actually be able to drag and drop those in, because that was the whole point. Not audio source, audio clip. Okay, I was actually also going to add in, because I think I might add the audio source to the UI. In theory, all of the dialogue clips should be 2D sounds, so it's not like we have to put it anywhere special. So if I just attach it straight to here, it should be fine. I will put it on a new audio. It is a weird place to put it inside the UI stuff, but it doesn't really matter that much. Let's add, okay. So I'm just going to bring this over here. And I'm just going to copy and paste the dialogue that goes with what. I'll probably have to do some more dialogue stuff outside, like the initial stuff, but I can put that in later. Actually, the dialogue, reading through it, will not be singular, so I should update that as well. When by singular, I mean like 2 lines of text could play rather than just one. So, and I've built it for just one, so just make it an array. I'll just add a couple in just to make sure it's working. And when it is, I can go back through and put everything in. Let's build the dialogue state for that now as well. I wonder if actually I should maybe put a state in there so the camera updates to the carousel view, so it's like looking over the player base. So I probably shouldn't have deleted all that, but I can easily put that back. I think I'll keep track of the dialogue index as well. Just automatically set to 0, just as a precaution. Okay, so I want to send a game event, sorry, game event manager, trigger event. I'm going to trigger that dialogue. Now the arguments were bool string audio clip, so we say true, tutorial action, dot get dialogue string dialogue index, and the same tutorial action dialogue clip dialogue index. Okay, so the only way to skip through the dialogue is if you run out of time or if you press A, for now at least anyway, which is pretty much the same as I can probably pinch code from dead player state. So I will need a timeout, which is basically just a timer class. So it says we having like floats and other variables kicking about. It's just a nice contained little class. And we'll say variable manager, I believe player user input. That's the one. So that's a predefined float just to say we only got 25 seconds or whatever to read this card. So when I start the dialogue, I would probably also want to reset the timeout and display it like that. And then when I update it, which is here, which will be something similar to that. So let me just copy and paste all that, and I'll just pilfer the code I need. So if the input manager or the timeout has finished updating, then we can do a little bit of logic there to say dialog index, increment that. I'll put it here. If have I missed out a yeah. So placing the the increment operator prior to the variable increments it and returns it straight then and there. I can't remember the proper lingo for that. Rather than placing it afterwards. So if it's still less than the tutorial action get string length, then it means we've got another one to play. So we just do start dialogue. Otherwise, we are finished, and we'll do the callback to say go to the carousel state. And I will also want to say, yeah, I'll put it here. No, I won't. Oops. I'll put it in finished, because obviously, once we're finished, we also want to turn this off. As soon as we don't actually have anything in here anymore, I'll just pass it an empty string and a null audio clip. I'll probably actually just pass it null there as well, it doesn't matter. Just have to cast it because of the event. Not that it matters. I'm going to get rid of that error. Okay, everything appears right. But now we have to actually call that dialog inside the player state controller. Okay, I think that wants to be called. So whenever we go into the carousel state, that's basically like the entry point for the players after an action's done. So I think there, after we've checked for dead cards, before the turn finishes, we want to say if there's any dialogue, do the dialogue. Now we're not removing the dialogue though, are we? So we'll always think there is dialogue there. I just thought if I'm removing stuff in the game, does it remove it from the inspector? It shouldn't, but I seem to remember having a problem with that in Live in Dungeon, which is really annoying. Because does it create an instance of it? Well, it's not serialized and it's not saving it, so it should be okay. Can't remember. But we did have that problem with the Live in Dungeon tutorials of the same ilk. I think I had to instance it. I probably don't have to. I've probably learned from whatever mistake I made back in the Live in Dungeon. Okay, so in that case, if I'm going to remove them, I suppose I didn't need to make that dialogue index thing. I'll just make it a list again. So then that means back in the playstyle controller, we actually check to see if there is any any dialogue on the current action. Why do I want to do that? I think I'll do it here so it comes after the dead and event cards get played, but before the finished turn gets played. Although it's just when we go into the carousel state, so it wouldn't make sense to put it there. So I'll put it here. That feels legit. It feels alright. Probably done something silly, but we'll find out. Yeah, I did something silly. Didn't fill that in. So at this point, each turn every player gets 3 actions. Actions within a card, take a card. Yep. Guess I put the wrong. I didn't check actually, did I, when I copy and pasted? Why that dialogue isn't progressing? Do I have nothing to just click to continue? I think I do. Because I was essentially waiting for a mouse click. How do I do mouse clicks? Because that should work with my controller pressing A to continue. When I do the round start, turn, no, next round, new round. Oh, it's not a player state, is it? It is a game state. Ah, there we go. Oh, continue. Well, I can hear it. I don't know whether it's recorded on OBS to be heard, but up there. Cool, so now that works. So that's my dialogue. So dialogue needs to be filled in. I probably have dialogue to be played. I have a couple of other places. So some of this audio is dead easy to do because it was part of the forced action. But for example, like here, that wants to be played after we've dealt out the cards but before playing the dead. I will put an extra variable in variable manager tutorial. What I'm also going to do is make a new class, we'll call it class. No, it can be a struct. That's fine. I'll make it serializable. I'm pretty sure structs are already newly serializable in Unity, but it doesn't hurt to pop that in there. And we'll call it tutorial dialogue. And that's going to have those two things. So instead of this, that'll be tutorial dialogue. So we don't have that. Hopefully that serializes fine in the inspector. Oh. Let's try that again, shall we? No, there's too many errors for it to handle. Okay, so did that serialize nicely? What? Where did that go? Hopefully that was because it crashed. So we need to add that dialogue back in. Oh, these headphones hurt. Okay, variable. So I'm going to have here a initial dialogue, I think. How many get played? 2, so I'll make that into an array. Actually, if I make it into a list, I can delete it again, can't I? No, I don't need to make it into a list, I don't think. I won't make it into a list to begin with, and then we'll see. It's easy enough to do. So, we had in the initialized tutorial scene, script. After the cards have been dealt, which is here, divide the cards. Instead of call back here, we can do a dialogue thing. Maybe I should put it into here actually. Yeah, I'm going to put it into the start game. Rather than the initialize, because it's not really to do anything with initialization, it's more to do with the starting of the game. So it starts straight away placing the dead, doesn't it? Oh well, no, I can change that. I'm basically going to copy it again and have a tutorial version of this. We're going to have the dialogue stuff here. Pretty much, I guess, exactly the same as this, just as a little function. I might just use that rather than copy, which doesn't make any sense. Instead of passing in tutorial action, I'm going to pass in that tutorial dialogue, which is a list. Yeah. So if I pass that in instead, so then I can reuse this. Oh, it's a list. That's okay. So we'll need to change here when I pass in the dialogue. It actually wants to be get dialogue there and there. That means when I use it inside the start turn, sorry, the start game, I can just have an instance of it, and I'll just reuse that code rather than duplicate that code, because if anything changes, it'll be fine. And so we pass in variable manager, for instance, tutorial, get initial dialogue, which actually wanted to be a list. So then I need to have an update loop as well. It's not a totally ideal situation because there's two switches in the same update loop, but okay, and once the dialogue is finished, then we can go straight to the start, place dead state. There is only going to be one player doing this, so it's not like it's a huge deal. So the finish, I will need to override. But since there's only one player, I'll just do the start game stuff. Okay, I feel like that's everything. I feel like that's it handled. I'm not calling the right class, that's why that didn't work there, hopefully. So the start game, I'm using the local, so now I want to use the tutorial. I do keep forgetting to do things like that. Oh, I forgot to call finish. That will stay that forever. So once it's finished here, that's where we want to say the dialogue state finish, and I'll just set it as null as well, just for safety. I felt like I wanted to add a continue button onto that dialogue there as well. Oh. Why does that continue there forever? That's not right. Oh, I've got the wrong panel on. It wants to be that. To turn that off and on. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, I'm just going to tweak them a little bit further. That should be okay. And there's the normal dialogue, which will need tweaking. It's not quite right. Okay, so that's the dialogue done.